Planning Commission meeting for March 25th, excuse me. Please stand as Commissioner Doyle will lead us in our invocation, and Commissioner Shoemaker will lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Lord, we thank you for this time of year, this Easter time that Christ was brought before you to be crucified for our sins. We thank you for our blessings, Lord. We hope that you would be with us through this Planning Commission meeting and maybe give us safe passage on the way home. We ask in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Commissioners. That brings us to establish a quorum. We have 6 of 8, so we do have a quorum. Approval of minutes. We have only the work session for November 20th of last year. Do I have any changes?
Or to the minutes, Mr. Chairman?
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, is there any change to the agenda? Or to
You've got, oh, I'm sorry, I did. I skipped over, I apologize. Approval of agenda. Before, is there any changes on your end, Nikki, on the agenda? All right, if it's a pleasure of, yes, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would like to address that. I'd like to take the old business and move it down below 6 so that we can discuss that last.
That was just what I was getting ready to bring up. So if it's a pleasure of the commission, we'll reverse the order and do the new business and then get Mr. George out of here.
Do we need to make a motion? on that?
Yes, we have to have a motion.
I'll move.
All right, do I have a second? Second. All right. You understand what the motion is? It's just to reverse the order. We'll do new business first because we only have one application, and then we'll do the old business. All in favor? If no discussion, all in favor, raise your right hand.
Oh, we have.
Oh, we can vote now? Oh,
the- You can
great.
vote now. Yes, sir.
All right.
Okay, it's not working here. Oh,
Uh-oh.
my yes is not working.
Mine's not working either.
It has voted, but I don't think it's tallying them.
It's not tallying, is it?
Oh, we don't see it.
Yeah, well, it's supposed to show up here, isn't it?
Is it being tallied up there? It is?
Oh, because Cruz and Davis aren't here.
So they're all up there, and how
Okay.
come it doesn't show yeses and nos on here? Okay.
Try voting again?
Do we have to make a motion for, oh, there we go.
All right. All right, we have all 6-4. All right, very good. All right, that now brings us to approval of minutes. We only have the November 20th of 2023 work session minutes. Is there any changes? Yes, ma'am.
On the Code of Ethics, there, where it says, under the Code of Ethics, number 2, it says Matthews County instead of Buckingham County. And
Okay.
that needs to be changed to Buckingham.
All right, any, did you see that, Nikki?
Code of conduct or the code of ethics?
Code of Ethics.
Got Buckingham County top page, and then it states,
On number 2.
okay, noted, that'll be
Okay.
corrected.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
very good. Any other changes, mistakes caught? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve as presented with the change?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
It's not clicking.
Somebody's got
I
to
think
hit the
we have a-
buttons.
I apologize, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. I have a question. The first topic that was up for a vote was the work session minutes from November 20th.
Right.
Did we finish that before we went into the Code of Ethics document, that we needed to make a change? Because
Well, that, what Joyce was bringing was in the minutes of November 20th, correct, Joyce?
And
It all
Mr.
runs
Chairman, that
together
was
in the
my
packet.
question. Because it runs right after the minutes. It looks like an attachment.
It's not, if you'll see, I have the date of adopted March 25th, so the Code of Ethics, that's your next order of old business after your minutes. In your packet, you'll see the agenda, along with the approval of minutes, which would have been the November 20th, 2023 work session, which are
Okay.
available, and then the next two sets from February are pending, they're not complete. And then the next thing we'd go into, I still have your correction noted for the Code of Ethics on
Right.
that one section, but the ethics and the conduct are not part of November 20th's work session minutes.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Yes,
Very
yes, ma'am.
good. All right, then we will have, we have a motion and a second, but understand there is no changes. Yes,
Can I make the motion again? 'Cause Oh, just raise your hand.
okay. All in favor, raise your right hand. Approval of the minutes? That's all six, so unanimous. All right, we're going to skip now to the new business and to the introduction of the application 24 ZMA 340 John George.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, the new case before you this evening is 24 ZMA 340. Our applicant is 3000 West Clay LLC with John K. George. The tax map is 31 parcel 8. It contains just over 2 acres, and it's located near 31786 North James Madison Highway, New Canton, 23123 in the Marshall District. That is the closest 911 address to this parcel. It's currently zoned A1. The request before you is to rezone from agricultural A1 to business B1 for commercial use, and the applicant is asking the Planning Commission to schedule a public hearing for this request. As I mentioned, this property is located on North James Madison Highway in New Canton in the Marshall District. It is zoned agricultural. The landowner currently is Charlottesville Realty Corporation, and the applicant is John George. This property operated as a commercial business many years ago and has no grandfathered status due to the time frame since last operation. Mr. George contacted me early this year regarding the possibility of a commercial usage of the property. Special use permits were explained, but he did not feel that SUP would best suit his business plan, as he would potentially have to seek multiple SUPs due to the specific tenant they may occupy the building. Mr. George indicated that a zoning map amendment would best suit his needs, as any permitted use would be allowed without seeking special use permits. This request was presented to the Board of Supervisors at the February 2024 meeting, seeking advisement as to the acceptance of this application. The Board of Supervisors was agreeable, and Mr. George was notified to proceed with this application for the zoning map amendment. This proposal is located within the Arvonia New Canton Village Center, as described on page 161 of the Buckingham County Comprehensive Plan, which surrounds US Route 15 near its entrance into the county from Fluvanna. Tells you what it's comprised of. I also included explanations from the comprehensive plan regarding Village Center and District 4, which is our business district, from the zoning ordinance. Mr. George is here with us this evening with a presentation and to discuss any questions and concerns that you may have. And remember, the request before you is for a public hearing, if agreeable, April 22nd, 2024 at 6 p.m.
Okay, thank you, Nikki. Mr. George, would you come to the podium, sir, and give us a quick overview of what you plan to do here?
Okay. Are you, Jamie, would you be able to put up the first image in my photo? Actually, I think I have a vicinity map. Could we scroll to that? Right there. Okay, so that map shows in red where the project is. So basically, if you're coming down Route 15 into the county, you cross the James River on that beautiful bridge, and then there's the By the River restaurant on your right, and the very next building you come to is up at the top of the hill. And I'm wondering how many of you people in this room are familiar with the building that's there. It's a white cinder block building. It's been abandoned and roofless.
Yeah. Yes.
Everybody's seen it. Okay, well, then we can just go to the pictures real quick, and there it is. There's, all right, that picture right there shows when you come, this is a gateway to beautiful Buckingham County, and you see that building on the right. And just to give you a bit of history, the first time I ever saw that building was 27 years ago. And I was driving to Buckingham for the first time in my life, to visit the family and meet them for the first time of the girl that I ended up marrying. And it was Thanksgiving Day, and it was like that. It was no leaves on the trees, and I saw that building, and I was like, wow, I like that. I'm a contractor. This is my 40th year in business. We do design build, and we renovate old buildings, and I have a special place in my heart for old buildings rather than building new. And I remember seeing that building and thinking, wow, something could be done with that. Well, fast forward 27 years, I finally told myself one day, why don't I call and find out who owns that building and find out what can be done? And within a week, I had it under contract, and then I started talking to Nikki, and she told me that we needed to go through a process like this in order to ever make it into something. So Jamie, if you could show a few more pictures, that's what, when you get closer to it, that's what it looks like from Route 15. And now that's the survey. Now, what's interesting about this is Nikki did report that it's about 2¼ acres, but that's actually a small mistake in the county land records. It's actually about 5 acres. That parcel was created in 1949, right after the county right-of-way was put through that area after the construction of the new bridge. And so that parcel has remained that size and shape since 1949. But there was an option to purchase recorded a few decades after that, where the tenant that was in there and operating a business had an option to purchase 2¼ acres. Well, that was the first time the size of the parcel had ever been described in the county land records. So it mistakenly, that option was never exercised, and so it's just that 2¼ acres has mistakenly stuck with the land record. So we're really talking about a 5-acre parcel. Not a whole lot of the land is available for use because of the terrain and the power line easement and the creek at the back, but everything we need to do, we can do on the flat land right out at the front. We could go to another photo. So here's a picture of it from above. You can see that there's no roof on the building. It is just rotted completely down to the floor, and there are things growing inside the building. And it has literally looked just about like this for 27 years. And there's a real pretty picture showing the building in the center of the image, and then the James River going west in the background behind it. And then, of course, the dark shadow in the middle of the photo is the Dominion power line easement behind the building. And then, Jamie, could you go to like the last, like the third from the last image, the site plan in the PDF? Yeah, there we go. Okay, so I made this site plan to show how the building could be remodeled and made into a retail space. And I'm envisioning, instead of one tenant, I'm envisioning a number of small tenants. So when I did some renderings, which I'll show you in a little bit, I envisioned like 4, 5, or 6 small shops in there. And so in order to accommodate that, I've got a parking lot, and you can see where I've drawn that in the center of the page, and that fits in really nicely with the terrain. It fits in nicely with the power pole that runs through the center and feeds the property behind. And there's a commercial driveway entrance right in front of that parking lot that'll have to be reworked according to VDOT in order to meet their current requirements. But all of that should work pretty well. There's a small hiccup, and I show it on my site plan, where the front yard setback for the original building is not met by the original building. We're supposed to have a 50-foot setback from the right-of-way. I don't think that building ever met that, but there have been 2 takings by the highway department since that building was built, and they have widened the right-of-way in that area, making that building even less in conformance to the zoning code that was put in place in, I guess, 1997. So another task, if we approve the rezoning, is I'll have to come back and ask for a variance so that the building can be reused as is, where is, because it doesn't meet the setback. But that is what I think should be done, because the building is placed where the terrain lets it be, and it's always functioned as a business, and I think traffic and parking won't be a problem at all where the building is today. And then maybe we can go to, let's see, maybe one of the views. So here's a rendering of the driveway and parking lot. Isn't correct in this image, but the building, that is the size and shape of the building, exactly as it is today. And instead of the automotive bays, I envision storefronts. And right there, I've got 6 drawn. So that could be 6 separate shops. Or if a tenant comes in and decides they want 2 spaces, then it would be 5 shops, and one of them would be a little bigger than the others. And I told Nikki at the beginning, I really don't know who my potential tenants are going to be. I don't know what businesses are dying to locate right there. But my idea is that I would remodel the outside of the building and remodel the grounds, do away with the trees, fix the entrance, make it look attractive, and restore the outside of the building, and then put up a sign, for lease, B1 zoning, and see who comes. And then I would fit out the inside of the building for their purposes. And so in order to be attractive to basically any business that would want to locate there that could legally do business inside of B1, I feel like it needs to be B1 so that we're opening the door to whatever businesses the county would want there. I've also discovered that B1 zoning allows apartments above businesses, and I think that some nice, new, elegant apartments could be very attractive and very nice to have in that corner of Buckingham, because if you're a school teacher, for example, and you're coming here and you're single and you want to live somewhere nice, you'd have to drive 20, 30 miles to find a nice new apartment. But I could provide 5 or 6 or 7 as a second story above this building. And I'm seriously considering that. I think those would rent out fairly quickly. I mean, I operate rental properties in Richmond and have for 30 years, and I always find good tenants, and they pay and they take care of the place, and it's a win for them because they have a nice place, and it's a win for me because they help make the payments on the building. So that's something that I would want to consider. I think we have 2 more views. Here's a view coming north, and then there's another view. This would be how it would look potentially coming south on 15. Then in terms of the apartments, I have, if you go to one of the images on the PDF near the end, maybe before that one, Jamie. Oh, maybe it's behind it. The last image, I can't remember. There we go, if we could rotate that. So from an architectural standpoint, I recognize that Buckingham is a beautiful rural county, and so I thought, an urban or suburban apartment building would not be the right look. And I found this 100-year-old hotel in the Poconos that has the craftsman or the rustic architecture, and I thought, boy, this would be a great look. If I transform that building and put apartments above it, I would take my architectural cues from the image that he's about to pull up. So this, as I said, this is an inspiration photo. I envision the whole downstairs being retail. And then on the second floor, if you scroll up just a little, you can see that there's a porch on the front, and that would be the access to the apartments, and that would overlook Route 15. And then on the apartments would go all the way through the building, which is about 32 feet. And on the back of the building, there would be decks where you could look into the hardwood forest that is directly behind the building. And that is actually a beautiful view. The lower photo where I put the James River Landing sign, that would be the size and shape and general detailing that I would do for the gable end. So as you came up Route 15, come across the river, and you looked up to your right, that's what you would see, the apartment above and the retail space below on the end of the building. And then you can see that in that lower image, there's a deck off the right. Well, that's where the decks would be for the apartments looking into the woods. So each apartment would have a front door with a living room, and then in the back, there'd be a bedroom, bathroom, and closet, and then off the bedroom, there'd be a deck where you could have a gas grill, and you could be up, way up in the trees, looking out in the woods. It'd be really, really nice. You guys have any questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Sir, I did go, I had an opportunity to go visit the property.
Good.
If you go back to the rendering that shows the green trees and things of that nature, I looked at the back of that building, and it sits right on that drop-off. That's number one. Number two, I'm looking at your, the map that shows.
Site plan?
Site plan.
Talk about the site plan.
Yeah, the site plan. The way you had that map, you showed a parking lot off to the left. So there's a couple of questions I would ask.
Sure.
Okay, the first would be, if you intend to have these businesses there, all right, and if you intend, let's assume that you're gonna go ahead and try to do mixed use, maybe put some residential there, what are you gonna, have you given any thoughts to the septic
Yes.
situation?
Yes, we have. And I, as part of my contract to purchase the property, I have the right to do some investigation, specifically septic. So I've hired a septic firm called Afton Consulting. And we went out there with a backhoe, and we dug 5 test pits in the sloping area behind. So if you went and looked at the building, you noticed that there's a flat bench right at the back of the building. It's
Right.
17 feet long on the southern end, and it's about 24 feet long. So there is a flat area directly behind the building, but then it slopes downhill.
Right.
And you can see that in the hatched area on my site plan.
Right.
And that's where we dug the 5 pits. And the soil consultant said that our soil there is halfway between bad and perfect. He said, so he's very happy. He said, we can put in an engineered septic system in that area. And he further went on to say that the engineered septic system would accommodate 5 businesses with essentially, a store. So it would have a sink and a restroom, and 7 apartments above, 1 bedroom each. And it would be smaller than a conventional septic system. He said it would last forever, and it could be put in amongst all of those trees. He likes the soil. He said,
So he wouldn't put any drainage down below where that land flattened out? Yeah, all the drainage would end up, in other words, your drain field, where would that be?
it
Below?
shows where it would be. It's in the hardwoods that are between
I see it.
the steep slope and the easement. There's a triangle of land there that's pretty big.
Okay. Second question, you did mention already that, that your 50-foot easement or your 50-foot leeway
Or setback.
yeah, setback wasn't there anymore. I recognize that. But I'm looking at the way you've got this parking lot, and I did drive in front of the building to see how it worked. I mean, how many cars would that parking lot hold? And let's make an assumption that these businesses are all successful. Would that parking lot accommodate all that you want to put in there, including the residences? Given the fact that, I'm looking at the way that driveway is configured in front of 15 the way it is now.
Well, VDOT gave us some advice on that, and they did submit that to Nikki. And VDOT wants us to reconfigure the driveway entrance, and they want a single entrance. So they want us to do away with one of those and then reconfigure the other one to meet current VDOT requirements, which we would do. So really, we should ignore the driveway entrance that's in front of the building itself. That will be gone. That'll just be a landscaped bank.
Okay?
And there won't be any cars parking in front of the building itself. The building will only be accessible from the sidewalk that comes in from the parking lot that's to the left of the building.
So how many cars would you plan to be there?
Looks like 29 parking spaces.
Yeah, 27 or 29, depending on how the handicap configuration comes in. Generally, handicap space, we can get 2 handicaps in 3 spaces.
What are you looking at, maybe 5 or 6 businesses, right?
Yeah,
And then you're looking at 20, maybe 25 cars maximum?
yeah. So the apartments are 1-bedroom apartments. And zoning doesn't give you any guidance or requirements for parking. So I drew a real simple lot. I could put more parking spaces in there.
I guess my concern is, I don't mean to interrupt, but, I mean, you're looking at 6 businesses plus the possibility of 4 or 5, maybe 6 apartments. And I just, I guess I'm a little concerned, because if there's no place for anybody to park, you're right next to 15 and across from you. I don't even know if it's still open, but that
It's
jet fuel
Worldwide Racing
company,
Fuel, yeah.
is it still there?
Uh-huh.
All right, well then, I mean, there's really nowhere else to park. I mean, you're not gonna park on 15.
Well, when I say small businesses, I'm talking about a one-room business. We're talking about a proprietor and one customer at a time, maybe 2. So I'm not sure what the traffic count is going to be. VDOT is going to require us to do a study that shows how many vehicles will come into this project at a time, per day, vehicles per day. So if the parking lot needs to be made larger to accommodate what VDOT says that our eventual parking load or vehicle per day will require, there is more flat land there. The parking lot could be made bigger.
I'm looking at where your land drops off. There's not a whole lot more land.
No, but over there, you see where the, there's
Everything
about,
to the west.
there's about 5,000 square feet where the dumpster is to the left. And you could do some grading and get a little bit more flat land, but we could accommodate more cars there.
All right. Okay, and then the last, so you talked to me about the drop at the back of the building. And then this one would be for Nikki. Nikki, if he were gonna have apartments and commercial businesses, would that still be B1, or we'd have to do an NC1, mixed use?
No, you'll notice in the B1 zoning district information that I included directly from the
Right,
ordinance, it
right.
states an apartment is allowed as a secondary use, so it would have to be over a existing business.
Okay,
No, there's no need for, with the plan that he has in place right now, these are permitted items under a B1 zoning district. So the request is not to go NC1, his request is to go from A1, which the property currently is zoned, to B1.
so therefore, if you get to a point where you think maybe the tenant, business and apartment, and the parking lot don't match up, what would you do? Would you make the spaces for tenants, particular business tenants, larger, so that you'd have fewer businesses? Is that your contingency, or do you have one?
Well, there's 5 acres, and the terrain governs what you can do easily. But let's say we had a tenant come in there and they said, John, we want to be there, and obviously you want us, just some imaginary business.
Sure.
Let's say some fabulous farm-to-table restaurant, and, we need 40 spaces. Well, we would just make it happen. We put a retaining wall in and bring in some fill, and just, we would just make the parking lot bigger. We have land, we just don't have advantageous terrain for a huge parking lot.
That would be my.
But the dream
refrain,
tenant, if they showed up, we'd give them the parking they need.
yeah. Okay, all right, thank you for your answers.
Looking at this, under B1, these are the things that you could possibly, there's a listing of things that you could possibly do, and it has the apartments. It has convenience stores, or dry cleaning. And what you're giving us now is what your vision is, but your vision could change, because if I'm hearing you correctly, you're starting with the shops with the possibility of putting apartments over there, overhead.
Yeah, I like the idea of the apartments.
Oh,
To
I
me,
like the idea too,
to
but
me,
it's,
it makes the project more economically feasible for me.
but you still have, these are all options that are open to you. with
Yes.
this approval.
Yeah, whatever is in B1 would be tenants we could welcome and say the door's open for you to come in.
Okay, that's what I wanted to
But obviously,
clarify.
so let me say this, I do like the idea of apartments up top, but that means I wouldn't like the idea of a business down below that would not be conducive to getting good tenants. So just find a business in there that you wouldn't want to live above. You see anything?
That I wouldn't want to live above?
Yeah.
I see a couple of things.
Yeah, I saw a few in there. I don't remember what they are, but I'm like, well, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't choose one of those businesses because that would hurt the tenants and hurt the harmony of the whole mixed-use development.
Yes, ma'am.
I would look, and along those lines, this county does need teacher housing very
Yeah,
badly,
yeah.
very badly. And if you had teacher housing above and a coffee shop below,
Yeah.
that also sold sandwiches or something else,
Oh,
salads on the
yeah,
side, then you've got
Right, that'd be great.
tenants. Those are great things.
Yeah, and there's other things it could be, like I think I put a bakery on can you pull up view number 1, Jamie?
And the beauty and barber shop, see, all of that could go
Right.
in there and would service the apartments above as
And,
well.
and
as
the
well as
surrounding
people- and the
community in
surrounding
New
community.
Canton. Like if there was a beauty shop, I mean, there's probably somebody, a real good beautician in the area that is running out of their back room and they don't like that. They would love to have, 600 square feet of their very own with a sign, with a parking lot. They could grow their business.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
And that area does not have, there are a plethora of churches, and I
Yeah.
counted the churches. But as far as, there's only a gas station and nothing to eat.
Right.
Nothing to eat, right?
Yeah. When the By the River was open, we were one of their first customers, and we went in there. We loved that restaurant. We thought, boy, this is gonna roll. And I don't know what happened, but it was a good restaurant. And I thought there was a great need for it. And so I'll be honest with you, like if some dream restaurant from Richmond wanted an outpost by the James River, and they wanted the whole building, and they wanted to build a glass dining room on the back overlooking the woods, I would certainly talk to those people. If it was a going concern, something that was a lure to the area, something that made the front door of Buckingham look good, and it made business sense, I would listen to it. But at this juncture, being agricultural, I have to open a farm store and sell hay bales, or a daycare center, or a church. And really, the terrain and the size of the property just doesn't lend itself to any of that.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
Speaking of the property itself, so you presented the deed from 1980. You mentioned errors in the land records. Do you have proof of that or any other legal additional deeds?
Yes, we do. Okay, so to prepare the site plan, I needed to know where the boundaries were. So I started digging in the courthouse, and I realized, oh gosh, this is above and beyond me. So I hired a surveyor to come, and the surveyor came in and did 3 separate trips to the courthouse and found and compiled the survey that is part of this application. Then I ordered a title report from, title insurance company. They went, I don't know where they got their records, I think online. They confirmed that the survey is right. They said, it needs to be verified by a field survey, but we see that what your surveyor found is what we have found, and we're willing to insure the title. So,
So you are currently not the landowner?
no,
You
I
are
have it under contract. And the contract is contingent upon the rezoning. So if I don't get a rezoning, like I said, I don't really have a viable business use for the property at all. So I really, as much as I like it, I wouldn't buy it.
Oh, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Let me ask Nick again. He says he's under contract. Can he actually ask for rezoning before he owns it?
The landowner has signed this application.
Okay, so we're actually rezoning for the current owner.
He's the applicant on behalf of the project, but the landowner has signed this application for this tax map.
So let's just look at the wildest situation. We go ahead and agree to a rezoning, and then he does not, or she does not sell that property to you. That property is still rezoned, correct? Okay.
But I wouldn't back out.
Well, I'm not worried about you back.
Well, I mean, it's under contract. It's
Yeah.
a legal Virginia real estate contract. It's not a handshake. It's,
So as long as they're a contract, then yeah, I understand that.
yeah, I mean, it's,
All right, thank you.
Mr. George, if you, that's a very old cinder block building. Have you have already checked on the structural of
yes,
that?
I have. I did a
It's still really
comprehensive
good.
visual
Yeah.
inspection of it, and it is remarkably free of cracks.
That's
And-
interesting.
I mean, remarkably free. Evidently, it's on hard ground, and it's got a good foundation under it.
Right, very good.
And also, what I do to it, I'm gonna strengthen it. There's ways, I'm gonna put a bond beam at the top and put rebar in the cores. It's typical what you do with old cinder block buildings to make them much stronger.
Right,
It's easy to do, it's common.
okay. As far as your businesses, how about the lighting? How do you plan to have your lighting set up for your businesses and your
Exterior?
parking?
Okay, if you look at the site plan, in blue, I have drawn 3 LED lights, and these are called high cutoff lights or something like that. They put all the light forward, and right at the pole, there's like a dark zone. So behind the pole, there's no light at all. So what it does is it puts all the light onto the parking lot itself
lot,
and won't
okay.
let any spill into the air, into the woods or onto the road. So basically, it follows good lighting practices where if you're gonna light your property, you don't light your neighbor's property. And all the light, you don't see the source of the light, shines straight down
Straight down.
and it's shrouded. So I have 3 of those on the plan, and that's just a preliminary based on recent projects I've done where these same light fixtures were used, and it's remarkable how effective they are, the distance apart that I've shown them. So that's just a beginning plan, but that's how I would carry through with it. I would have a photometric drawing made by the lighting company that would show the building department as part of my building permit exactly where the light would be.
Right. How about your water source? It's gonna have to come off wells. Have you done any preliminary work with that yet?
No, we have not. I know there's a well on the property.
Yeah.
So I don't know where it is, and I haven't tested it. But if I did this project, I would either use the old well, have it tested, see how it flows, see how it works, or I would drill another one.
I suspect you'll probably need another well. And when this thing was constructed, they didn't have any really, at that time, drill wells. They were more dug, bored.
okay.
Most
Well,
of the time.
Yeah, and I actually don't know if one has been put in the decades since. I have another property in Buckingham that is a 150-year-old hand-built farmhouse, and I was very pleased to find a 1983 drilled well on the property, and it's awesome.
Yes, sir.
Should you get this permit and get everything settled, do you have any kind of an anticipated start date for the project?
I would start right away. As soon as I had it rezoned, I would immediately go in there, clean the whole place up, power wash, paint the outside of the building, make it look good, replace the broken glass, and put the signs up, say, for lease, who's interested?
Excellent, thank you.
Okay. Steve?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I may have missed this. Do you have where you're routing the power in from, your electrical power?
Yeah, actually, that's shown in the site plan.
And I didn't see
Look
that.
dead center of the parking lot. Can you zoom in on your screen? Can you see where it says power pole existing, or UG power? And there's a dotted line that runs right over to the back left corner of the building. On that pole is a transformer, and that's where I'm gonna get the power for the building. And it's where the building always got its power. Can you see that?
Probably have to
Yeah, I see it.
update that whole
Pardon?
thing.
Oh,
Have
yeah,
to
yeah,
be
but Dominion
updated.
would take care of that.
I'm
They would
just-
upgrade everything I need. But the nice thing about it is that power line that runs across there,
Right.
the pole, it'd be difficult to get Dominion to move the pole. So I designed the whole parking lot around the exact pole, and it works perfectly.
Chairman,
Yes, go ahead.
I'm looking at your plat. Deed is, I'm still confused. The deed is 2¼ acres and the plat is not recorded.
No, the plat is no, well, the compiled plat has not been recorded, but the title company said, we agree with a compiled survey, and when you record, we will use the compiled survey to record. So in other words, the title company has no question about where the boundaries are. And the compiled plat actually matches the original plat where this property was actually created. And that survey is actually on records from, in 1949, in the courthouse.
I'm just looking at the tax map, the county.
Yeah, the tax map is nowhere near correct, unfortunately. Everybody knows they're not perfect, but this one's way off.
Pretty accurate on the acreage that they're billing for, though.
There was a mistake, and I think it comes from the option that was granted and never executed. But I have worried about that, and I've done a lot of work to make sure I know where the boundaries are, and I'm 99.9% sure that the compiled plat is accurate. And the title company agrees with me. Well, I would feel more comfortable with a field survey, but that's an expensive endeavor. that I wasn't gonna commission until I knew that I had reasonable chance at getting B1 zoning. And y'all could make the zoning contingent upon a field survey and the recording of same.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I understand that concern, and it was one of mine, but if it were a condition, it would be, we'd probably get around it.
Yes, I think that would alleviate a lot of problems with it if we did do that. And Mr. George apparently is receptive to that, so.
Yeah, yeah. And also, you know, the stream has moved in the past 75 years, and the back line of the parcel is the actual stream. So a field survey would put all those property lines to bed.
Any more questions from the commissioners?
I'll go back to the VDOT study. So we've talked about a lot of conceptual things that you'd like to see. So I travel that road pretty often. I think a number of commissioners do. It's pretty narrow. Have you discussed with them if they need to put in turning lanes, what that does? Does that even further decrease your setback? There's not a ton of room there.
Well, they told me that a left turn lane is going to come into play when you're talking about 5,000 vehicles per day. But under no scheme would this little development of 3,400 square feet ever generate 5,000 vehicles a day. So I don't think VDOT is going to require either a right or left turn lane in that area for this project. But I don't have anything definitive because we haven't done the VTIS study that they're asking us for. Matter of fact, I've never done one before. I would have to look into how to satisfy them with that. Sometimes I understand localities do those studies for a development. Sometimes the developer does them. That's up in the air at this point. We have to make VDOT happy, though.
Any other questions? George? All right, Mr. George, you can take a seat. We'll discuss this among the commissioners here. Yes, Mr. Wright. Oh,
I brought him out. It seemed like there were some questions about the deed. I didn't know if you wanted to ask our legal counsel a little bit more, and you also had a question about rezoning with a contingency. So I thought that those would be good questions.
right. Did you hear the discussion in regards to the a proper acreage? Mr. George is willing to make that a contingency, that a survey will be completed upon approval, or before approval, I guess, if we go to the Board of Supervisors. How is the legal aspect of that, Mr. Wright?
So explain then, a little, where would we be in this one then? Because he says that the tax map shows 2+ acres and the survey would show 4. So what would we say?
The county's getting taxes out of 2 acres plus, or whatever they show. So what you want to say is tax parcel and da-da-da-da-da is zone, if you change the zoning to whatever you're changing the zoning to.
So just for the tax map?
Yeah.
Okay. And so if the county,
Estimated to be 2 acres or less by the boundary, not by the acre, however you want to describe it, but I don't believe this commission should get in the business of certifying boundaries.
great, so therefore, if he goes out and proves that he actually has 4+ acres, then that would be the new tax map, and that would be automatically
It'd
zoned.
it'd still be that, it won't get a new tax map number.
No, but it would be increased acreage, and then he would be, and then the zoning would apply to the additional
Because
acreage.
that tax to the whole thing.
I understand that.
All right, so what you're saying is he would, if he did the survey and showed that he had 5 acres, 4.98, then he could go and have that changed, the acreage
If he-
for that property to fit the tax map number.
Survey went on record that the commissioner would pick it up and
Right.
his tax base would expand and the parcel would still be zoned what you zoned it.
Okay. Did you understand that, Mr. George?
Yeah, that's what I thought would happen, that nobody's really looked at that parcel hard enough to determine exactly the boundaries and the acreage until now. And now that we have a professional opinion, we have a title company saying, yeah, we went all the way back to 1949 and beyond, and we see that actually this size, it's correct. The only thing that's wrong in the land records are how they drew it and the acreage that they say it is.
Right. But they're not, what we're saying is, what Mr. Wright has verified is they're not, that they, the county, will not change the acreage for for your tax map parcel until a survey is presented that shows that you have 4.98 acres.
That makes sense.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, then
Yes.
having said that, and looking at this plat, all right, let's assume, this is the worst-case scenario, tax map is correct. Is there still enough room for you to do this?
Yeah, oddly enough, yeah. Because the extra acreage that's on the parcel is all
Beyond the slope,
way down the slope. It's the whole power line easement.
but the frontage doesn't change?
Yeah, the frontage, the flat land, all of that. When you talk about the tax map, you're talking about,
The 2 point some odd acres.
yeah, the triangle that shows in the county records with
Right.
no meets and bounds and no range, no bearing. It's not, it's just a
Understand?
line drawing.
But given that tax map parcel,
Yeah,
there's still enough room for you to do all of this on this?
yes. Like if but I don't envision that happening because we've gotten
I
a
understand.
licensed
I'm just-
surveyor and a title company.
Totally understand that. All I'm saying is, does this fit if that were the case?
Yeah, it fit. That's why I agreed to buy the property, not knowing where the boundaries were. Because all the land that the business sits on and the parking lot to the left of it that was always there is all I need, really. And the extra acreage, see, we don't know where the extra acreage is. I think what somebody did is they drew a line on the Route 15 side of the power line easement, because that's what makes it a triangle.
Right.
But that's not exactly right either. I don't know how the tax map got off, because nowhere in the whole chain of title that we've investigated is there ever a parcel described as 2¼ acres with any boundaries. The parcel that I'm buying has never changed in size or shape since it was created, since the day it was created. It's always been that size and that shape. And
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
based on what we have heard, that we have to, as a planning commission, consider the tax map, which is 2¼ based on the 1980 deed.
but it's just described as 2¼
Right.
It doesn't say the size and shape. It
Right.
references
Well,
another.
that's what I'm getting at the pleasure of the commission. I would like to see this project shown with setbacks graphically on what we know to exist. So based on the deed from 1980, while your concept works, there's no way for us to evaluate it without seeing the project on the tax map as it is formally recorded at the courthouse right now.
But I have a problem with that because I only work in precision. And the tax map itself is just a line drawing like this. It does not show where a structure is. It doesn't show the length of any of those lines. It doesn't show the direction of any of those lines.
Right, but as a
It-
commission and with our zoning ordinances with setbacks, I think we have to have that information before we can consider this project. That's just my
Well,
opinion.
May I disagree? Because in the requirements for the zoning application, it says I must submit a survey prepared by a licensed surveyor. And no licensed surveyor would ever prepare a survey showing the triangle that's on the tax map, because there is no data in the county books that prove it out. It's just a mistake. I can't get a survey that shows a triangle. I would have. I mean, if that's what the surveyor came up with and showed me a triangle, I'd be like, great. Give me the meets and bounds so I can make Nikki the site plan that the application requires. So it was a big surprise to me.
Right.
But it doesn't matter because I don't need 5 acres to do what I'm planning on doing. It would work out just fine on 1.5 or 2.25.
According to him, it's not surveyed, but he's saying it's along.
It does state that it needs a survey. Mr. George is stating that there is not one on file. However, the
This is- it
recorded
follows- I
deed
think
does
it follows
state that it's
seasonal.
described as 2¼ acres. I'm not a surveyor and I'm not an attorney, but the written document that is the instrument on record for Buckingham County is this deed from 1980.
But it's a
It does
mistake.
state-
I mean,
I would
mistakes
s-
happen.
What's recorded in our instrument books is that it's 2¼ acres.
Right.
Right, but it gives much more precise information if you read further on in that same deed. it says, there's a being clause in every deed. And it says being the same parcel, blah, 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 as was transferred. And then you go to that deed and it says the parcel being, and it says being the same parcel in all respects. And the title company saw that and said, yeah, we see that too. So it is actually,
There are no exceptions to survey in your title, because that's a compilation, that's.
yes, it is a compiled survey. And the title report, actually, I have an email from the title company saying that they would actually record that with the title insurance policy. But I wouldn't do that. I would actually have a ground survey done. But the title company and the surveyor are both confident that the compiled plat is accurate.
And that's fine, but that's not of record right now. And
Yes, and I don't dispute that at all. It needs to be of record at some point in the, but let me ask you guys something. As commissioners, or planning commissioners, when someone brings a survey in and says, you know, this is 6.98 acres and it's got a surveyor stamp on it, do you start arguing about where the property lines are or how long they are? I mean, you don't. You just take the surveyor's word for it because the tax maps are not accurate, ever. They're just line drawings. They don't have any dimensions. Isn't that right, sir? Pardon?
they're never correct, and sometimes they are.
Well, if you show someone a line drawing without dimensions, you can't say whether it's correct or not.
Question you asked, your statement was the tax maps are never right.
Well, they're
That's
never
not-
precise enough to replace a survey. Survey is
Now,
always,
that I agree with, that's a different statement, and I think that's what they're asking. Tax number.
well, I do have a compiled survey.
That's not of record.
Yeah, have you tried to take this to the clerk's office and never recorded yet?
Well, I can't
The
because I don't
compiled.
own the property. I could ask the
How about the
owners.
landowner that you're in a contract, correct? Couldn't the
Yeah.
landowner that's, you're, the contract with, couldn't he take this and get it recorded? See, the problem you got is you got a deed saying 2.25? And that's what the problem is. You got a plat, and I'm not disputing what you're saying about tax map number, because sometimes they're in the wrong area. I've run
Sometimes
into it all the
they
time.
look perfect.
In my work. But what your issue is, the main problem we got here is your survey is saying, and I'm not disputing your survey whatsoever, but you've got a deed saying 2.25, or the landowner does. Unless you, now I guess you could go back prior to that option, but we don't see that paperwork, and that's what the issue is. You got a plat saying right at 5 acres, but you got a deed recorded saying 2.25.
Mr. Chairman, I think the question before the commission is whether you want whatever piece
Yeah,
of, what you need to do.
right.
You know, one,
Right.
there's no commitment.
Right.
What the commission needs in these cases is decide whether you want this piece of property, zone B1, and anything in B1 can be built there.
Yeah.
That's the basic question, the acreage, or you get into questions of whether you can meet setbacks. Question really before the commission. Zoning for this piece of property and all the. There's no application for acting on is zoning that piece of property B1.
Yes,
Mr. Chairman, here in the last work session, we looked at all those corridors, and we already argued and accepted the fact that along those corridors, we wanted that to be a potential growth area for the county, which includes this piece of property that Mr. George is where he wants his business located. The issue for me is that, so eventually what we want to do is we want to build up those corridors anyway. he's got some sort of an idea for a business. We've had these things in front of us before where zoning requests were made, and there's never a guarantee, because if we zone something, we know that list applies. But at the same time, in this particular case, he's talking about 2+ acres. If it's 2+ acres, or if he gets it surveyed and becomes 4+ acres, it's still zoned B1. So it's not like we're gonna say, okay, the 2+ acres are B1 and behind that's A1. If he gets it surveyed and it becomes a 5-acre parcel, it all becomes B1. So I really think if we look at Mr. Wright's comment, the question for us is, are we okay with taking a piece of property that's in an area that we're arguing should be growth, all right? And rezone that to something where an individual can put a commercial piece of business, and I think that's the question before us. I'm okay with that, and I'm ready to make a motion.
Any other commissioners have any questions for Mr. George before we move forward with a decision? Okay, Mr. George, you can go ahead and sit down, sir.
All right, thank you.
All right, I would move, Mr. Chairman, that we go ahead and take this project to a public hearing.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion on this? All in favor of the,
Well,
oh, can we vote?
oh, you got your
Raise your hand.
Okay.
All right. All in favor, raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. All opposed. 2 opposed, 4. We will be moving to public hearing. Ms. George, when is it, Nikki? I'm sorry.
Second, 6
Hey.
PM.
April 22nd, 6 o'clock.
Planning Commission regular meeting. This is the second branch of that tentative schedule as included in your application.
Just aside, Mr. Chairman, it might be helpful at that point in time, Mr. George, if you could do something to give us some more comfort as to, again, I know the question doesn't seem pertinent, but there might be something you should be able to do, possibly with the owner, to at least give us some assurance as to the real land mass that we're talking about.
So there are two things that I could do. I could bring in my title policy. It's called a title commitment or a title binder. It's the title company's promise to insure that particular piece of property and say, yes, that is what you're purchasing. I could do that. I could also,
Mr. George, if I could interrupt you, don't mean to, but if a title company's looked at the title on this thing, decided, just to make it easier, they had to do some research.
oh, yeah.
Apparently, they would have some basic information where they went back to the creation
Yeah,
of
I've
the
got a 28-page email
Yeah.
with all the chain of title and all the title company's notes, the title searcher's notes.
If you would, I could only ask you to, as a favor for the commission, to perhaps bring just some of that documentation along with the title report.
I could. I mean, it was
It's a favor.
This
You
was
don't
a
have to
surprise
provide.
to me. When I went to draw the site plan, I knew that I needed meets and bounds. And I fully expected it would be a triangle, just like the tax map shows. It would be right at 2¼ acres. I was just really surprised when I found out that's not the case. But it doesn't matter. For my plan, the extra acres don't make it a viable project. Like, if Ashley says, well, if it was only 2¼ acres, could you still do it? Well, that was my plan to begin with, and I could. But the thing is, that's just not a true situation. The true situation is the plat that I have that will be confirmed by a field survey. The field survey will move those lines ever so slightly compared to the rods that they already find for the surrounding property and for the center line of the stream in the rear. So it'll change a tiny bit. But the title company says, yeah, that's what you're getting. That's what the guy's selling, and that's what you're buying.
Okay. Yes, sir. No.
Question of evaluating a site plan at all. In fact, it complicates things. There's a situation that's worked its way back around where the commission recommended to the board that it change some zoning, the board changed the zoning, but where it got caught up in a zoning map amendment, where it got caught up, the person presented sort of a semi-informal site plan when they were asking us what they were thinking to do to justify why they wanted to change the zoning. Well, they changed the zoning, the board did, and now that's back, they're asking for the permit, and they can't make what they want to do fit on the piece of property.
Right.
Which they said, we gave that to you, and y'all acted on that. So that site plan has nothing to do with the notion of whether you want to approve this as a B1 piece of property or not. He's showing ideas of what might be done, but there's no commitment to
Oh,
do
yeah.
any of those. So, I mean,
Yeah.
you could almost just take that site plan and just, and that's
Discard.
an informal site plan. So, I mean, think of this as whether you want this piece of property to be B1, and any of the things in there can go on that property. And that's no negative comment towards you.
No, I agree with you 100%. I came down here to ask you guys to open the door on that piece of property to businesses that would want to locate there that are allowed in B1. He is precisely right. And the site plan is just a concept, it's an idea, it's a hope, it's a dream. I don't have a tenant, but I hope to be able to open the door to businesses by having B1 zoning. He is exactly right. The size and shape of the land, I mean, everybody knows what it is and where it is, and exactly where the property line is yet to be determined, but I've done a lot of professional work to help you guys understand where those property lines are at this point, because I knew that the tax map has a mistake in it, and I can't come in and draw my site plan on a triangle once I found out that it's a square. So that is, but I think he's right. That's really not the issue. You know, do we want that 550 feet of Route 15 to have commerce in it or not? And I think that the fact that it's been like that for 30-some years, I can change that if I get B1 zoning, and I will. I'm asking y'all to open the door to businesses on that 550 foot of frontage.
Okay. We will see you in April, Mr.
All right,
Jordan.
that's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate y'all taking so much time.
All right, that's going to bring us to our old business, which is consideration of the Buckingham Planning Commission Code of Conduct and Code of Ethics. George, you weren't here at our work session, weren't able to attend. I brought them to the attention, which I meant to announce, that on the Code of Conduct, we had already talked about deleting number 7 because that went right against our bylaws with the time, given you don't want to open the door for too
Don't
much
want to
time.
open the door for
Exactly.
everybody, right.
Right, and then it was also repeated on the Code of Ethics on number 10. So, same thing. So we want to take them, delete them. We had talked about number 4 on the Code of Ethics. We started talking about it anyhow. I had told them being the commission last week, that my main concern with it is when it says economic means. I read it several times, but I interpreted that as a possibility of an applicant looking at this and saying, well, they're trying to cut corners to save time and save money. Did I get a fair hearing? So that's just the way I looked at it. That's just my opinion. I think probably that my suggestion was maybe just to take that out because I looked at it that way. But again, that's just my opinion. So that's number 4. Before we get into discussion, does anyone have another number on either of these documents?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Go back to the Code of Conduct, and I would like to look at item number 2. I quite honestly don't understand sensitive professional moral judgment. I would argue that what we're doing is exercising, to the best of our ability, judgment to do in all activities. I don't, these other adjectives, they, I think, are open to, you could open them up to all kinds of different standards. I think if we're exercising our professional judgment, it has to be to the best of our ability. And that, I think, would be a much more appropriate statement. That's just my view, sir.
Okay. All right, well, let's, any other, commissioners have any other numbers that, or conditions that they'd like to discuss? We have 2 and 4 remaining. Well, actually, the others we have to decide on too, but as far as the time, I assume everybody's okay with that. That went right against our bylaws, because we got 3 minutes stated in the bylaws. All right, so we got 2 and 4, 2 on the code of conduct, 4 on the code of ethics. Any others? All right, let's take number 2. Exercise on the code of conduct, exercise sensitive professional and moral judgment in all activities. Pete has indicated he would prefer just be exercise professional judgment in all applications. Is that the way you're?
Yes, sir, to the best of our professional ability, yes, sir.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the commissioners? Anybody feel like that's a reasonable compromise? Okay, all right.
In that this is just a,
It's just an out,
it's the
outbound.
first time we're doing it.
yeah.
And I just found something that
Mhm.
seemingly could suit our needs. And for us to start with, we would revisit this each year when we
Oh, yeah,
revisit our
it's-
bylaws.
It'd be the
So,
same thing. so,
Yeah, we
right.
could review it, so there's no problem with that.
All right, Nikki, we're gonna, on number 2, take out sensitive and moral and just say exercise professional judgment in all application. Okay. And you did get to, we're deleting number 7 on the code of conduct and number 10 on the code of ethics because it goes against our bylaw with time.
I took off the excess, the second part of that. I left be open-minded and patient.
Oh, okay.
Did revise them because I think the second part was what I noted, but I can remove them completely if that would be your preference.
Want them removed completely, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
I'm asking you.
Oh.
is it-
On,
Excuse me.
you're referring to, I'm referring to number 7, the time,
I think it's 7 in code of conduct and 10 in.
10 on the code of, because, I mean, we can change it, but because of the time, it goes right against our bylaw, because we say 3 minutes. So my suggestion was just to remove them entirely.
Okay, and I removed the part that talked about the ability to speak and engage in
Right.
their view. I just left the first part of that, which was be open-minded and patient. Is it your preference for me to remove 7 and 10 in their
Well, I'm
entirety?
looking at the old copies here, so, sorry.
Sorry. And
Anyhow, what is the pleasure? I was just asking to delete them entirely.
6 of one, half dozen of the other,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm okay.
All right. Looks like the consensus is just delete both 7 and 10. All right, that brings us to number 4 on the code of ethics. And I open up for discussion. Like I said, gave what I saw, or at least the way I interpreted, or one way I interpret. And-
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
With regard to number 4, and I think you and I have had a conversation in the last meeting, the issue there to me is it's a little bit confusing again because of all the words that are used. I think if number 4, if we need a number 4 at all, I mean, I'd be okay to eliminate it as you suggested. But if we do need a number 4, I would opt to use the following verbiage: seek to use to the best of our ability a process that allows for fair and effective responses to those bringing projects and issues forward to the commission. I think we've said it a number of times in a number of different areas, so even that's not necessary. But if you wanted to just eliminate it, I'd be in favor of that as well.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Kapuscinski, can you repeat that, please? What you
Sure.
wrote? This is
Sure.
for number 4 under Code of Conduct.
Yes, ma'am. Seek,
No, number 4 on the
Code of
code.
no, I'm sorry, Code of Ethics.
Code of Ethics.
Code of
Okay.
ethics,
Okay.
yes.
Go ahead.
Seek to use, to the best of our ability, a process that allows for a fair and effective response to those bringing projects and issues forward to the commission.
Of course, right. And my suggestion was to delete it because I interpreted with economic means that someone could, I'm afraid an applicant could look at that and say, well, maybe I didn't get the due diligence that I needed because they were trying to rush at corners to save money for the county.
Okay.
So
And,
my suggestion was just to remove it, delete it.
Mr. Chairman, I'm okay with that too. It doesn't, I just use this as an
It's,
alternative.
you know, it's whatever the commission wants. I'm just one. I'm just my opinion.
and I think this is where we had the discussion about something equal and equitable, being an equitable discussion. And I truly believe we have not been equitable in on more than one occasion. And so I like the word equitable in there. And
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I strongly,
right. I know you don't want equitable in there.
yes, sir, because I believe it implies a prejudice, and I do not care to be prejudiced in any of the decisions that I make here. And that's why I did, sir, offer an alternative, saying to the best of our ability, a process that allows for a fair and effective response. And in fact, if you recall, the last time we discussed these things, you did put into an objective statement that we had already that we were going to be fair in our decision-making. So, I mean, this is just duplicative. And again, I'm okay if everybody wants to get rid of it, it'd be fine. But if you're gonna have a number 4, then again, I think we have to emphasize the fact that we're going to be fair and effective. It doesn't matter to me the color of somebody's skin or their gender or their culture. It doesn't matter to me, that stuff. When people come up here, we need to be blind to that and understand that our job is to look at the project and how they want to use that land.
Yes, ma'am.
I do differ because we have not done that as a board. So we have not been blind as to gender, color, and size of property. And my favorite was the property with the firefighters and the fire department and Mr. Wyco in my district. Much more property than the firefighters. And we held Mr. Wyco to a very restricted standard. And the firefighters, we just went, okay. So for that reason, that's why I know we have not been, I'd say, even-handed, equitable in what we're doing. One had considerably more land, but was restricted to that. And that's one occasion.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
If you look at the meaning of equitable, fair and equitable are not the same thing. When we look at equitable, what we're talking about in today's society, we're looking at taking away from something to add to something else. That's a prejudicial decision. My point is, we should not be prejudiced in our decision-making. So fair and effective, to me, is an appropriate way to describe what we need to do. Equitable implies a prejudiced decision, so I strongly object to that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
if you were to get rid of number 4, I think number 5 addresses most of Joyce's concerns.
Yes, that's right.
Any other commissioners have any, voice any concerns here or opinion, please?
We ready for motion?
As a compromise, if we wanted to keep number 4, could we just cut it off as seek to find and use the most fair, efficient, and effective means? Take out equitable and economical.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I definitely
You
want,
just want to
I definitely
substitute
feel like
5
that.
and
Yours is 5 satisfactory if you take 4 out for you? Or we can do the compromise and take equitable, put fair, but my main concern was the economical part of it.
Yeah. I think we need to remove that too.
Yeah, if we could drop that, I have no problem with that either, so.
If you do that, Mr. Chairman, my view is that 4 and 5 then basically say the same thing. I like 5, I really like 5, it absolutely
real, Rick.
describes what we should be doing. And so 4 just becomes a confusing thing for me.
I agree.
then I'm willing to listen to the consensus of the
of the-
group.
uh,
But bear in mind, we have not,
Right, I
we
understand.
have not been fair.
Completely.
And completely fair. And I've got some more, I've got a couple of others, if you would like to hear them. So, but that's the most outstanding, how we treated property. Somebody who had more property, much more property, and essentially we were dealing with men.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to call the question here.
All right, well, let's,
Call a question.
we've got
Excuse
two, let
May I
me do it
finish?
this way. We've got
Mr.
two alternatives, okay? Yes, ma'am.
May I finish my statement?
Yes, ma'am.
What I was saying was that we were dealing with men, we were dealing with different sized properties, and we allowed one set, much more, more people on their property, and that was only reduced because of the survey that was done on the property, not because of our decision. And the person who had much more property was restricted in more than one way to what he could do with his property. And we showed greater leniency to the fire department. And it has nothing to do, for me, with the fire department. It's just these two entities were treated very differently. So we need to be aware of how we treat people who come before us. And so that was why I like the word equitable. But if we are going to, again, that I do not discriminate, then we need to follow that. Any citizen, and regardless of sex, race, age, religion, creed, I won't even say marital status, or whether they're standing there with a man, because we've done women who've come before the board differently also.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, I can see, whatever the consensus is of the of our board, I can go with.
Well, we've got two options. One was to just delete 4, because 5 it's sort of repetitive with 5. However, we could, and Ashley had suggested, take out equitable, just put fair. I did want to drop the economic, so it would read, seek to find and use the most fair, efficient, and effective means for getting tasks accomplished.
That's your motion, Mr.
And
Chairman?
I'm fine with either one. I think that probably would cover it. So, that's your two options that we've discussed, so.
So I'm ready, whatever, as far as these two are concerned, have we finished discussing them, or are we going to each
Oh,
one?
no, I mean, that's where we're at. I'm just bringing it, summary,
Okay.
bringing to where we're at. They were the two options, delete it or change it to that, because as Calvin said, 4 sort of is repetitive of 5 because
Okay.
it goes in more detail. But
Okay.
the compromise was what Ashley had suggested, just take equitable, put fair, and drop economical, which is what my concern
We
was.
can drop 4 and go with 5, as far as I'm concerned. That's easy too.
Well, Mr.
So-
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I would agree, I would make a motion that we drop 4, but I would also add to that motion, in order to satisfy the one thing that really concerns me too, we ought to add culture. In other words, race, sex, age, religion, creed, culture country of origin. That would take care of any of these other issues that,
Are you referring to clause 5, put
Five, yes.
culture in?
yes.
All right. Well, would you
That would take care
put
of,
that in the form of a
that
motion?
would
and-
take care of our gay community as well.
Okay. If you would, put that in the form of a motion, and then we'll discuss it. real quick.
Okay, I would move, sir, do I hit the motion first? Do I hit the okay. I would move, sir, that we remove item number 4 from the Code of Ethics and add to number 5, citizens, regardless of race, sex, age, religion, creed, culture, and/or country of origin or disability.
Second.
Okay. All right, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Calvin?
Calvin did.
Oh, okay, I didn't hear, I'm sorry.
I'm mumbling over here, I'm sorry.
All right, now, we have a motion and a second to remove, delete 4, but add culture to clause 5. Further discussion? All right.
Are we supposed, oh,
Yeah. well,
Oh, could we vote by, okay. All right, seeing none, we'll take a vote then.
oh.
No discussion, anybody?
The only thing I want to say, I don't see how the culture, any of these, none of these things, to me, fit that instance when we voted between the fire. We can't get there, but it still doesn't fit what we did with the firefighters and the other gentleman. I just want to say that for the record, but I am ready to vote.
Okay. All right, then we'll take a vote then.
Already voted.
All right. I have, if I'm reading this correctly, all majority, 6. Okay, very good. All right, that finishes our old business and brings us to, Nikki, you got those changes, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I do have a.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Brings us to your reports.
Only included for informational purposes. I don't have anything to add.
Okay, very good. That will bring us to commission matters of concern. George, you have something?
I do want to add, Commissioner Kapazinski, do you realize that when I'm talking, you're shaking your head and grimacing and going?
Yes,
as
ma'am,
I'm
because I don't
speaking?
agree with you.
I get that, but that's also body language and can be seen by the people who are here with us. As
I
you-
take your criticism, Mr. Chairman, I've had enough. I really have had enough. Mr. Chairman, I really had enough. I'd like to make a
Okay,
move that
all
we
right,
adjourn.
we're not getting anywhere at this point, so let's,
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
thank you, I appreciate the time to speak.
okay. Everything's fine. All right, so, any other commission matters? See none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Have a motion and second. Take a vote because nobody wants to, can we vote? Okay, or we have raised hands?
Yes, I did. Okay. The yes is lit up.
Well,
Hit it again? Yes, sir. Okay.
and vote again?
Whoever second?
Second.
Yes, we have a second. Not going, is it? You got anything, Ashley? I have nothing up here.
I think Steve still has to.
Steve, did you go? There we go. Okay, well, it's unanimous, 6. So we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.